Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to be discussing through this webinar the key metrics beyond rankings. Our goals for today are to certainly go through some of the changes in search engine algorithms that have shaped the industry, discussing how the changes affect SEO strategy in 2014, and how these metrics for tracking and measurements certainly will carve the way for your success looking forward in your marketing and strategy. Today, I'm Chris Sorovic, the Director of Project Management. I'm also joined by Mike Puzo, the Vice President of Strategy and Consulting. For those of you who don't know WebiMax, I know there are a handful of you that do as well. We are a full-service marketing and digital marketing agency specializing in not only search engine optimization, paid marketing, social media, reputation management, as well as web design services, and a few others that we could certainly support. The goal today, as I mentioned earlier, is to open up some concepting and ideas and also shed some light on some practical, easily trackable metrics to help business owners determine how their organic internet marketing campaign is performing. We will be using Google Analytics, Webmaster Tools, and some other third-party tools that will certainly be takeaways from this discussion that you can begin using and applying to your marketing shortly after the presentation. Now, we talk a lot about remembering when SEO was certainly easier than it was today. Before pandas and penguin updates and before encrypted search and non-provided, getting desired key rankings and tracking the traffic they provided was actually simple. It was much easier time. Algorithms were simple, they were more basic, and they were less frequent as far as updates as well. But the practicing SEO and the type of marketing that we're performing, there was a way to manipulate search results relatively easily. If you wanted a page to rank for certain terms, there were areas and different methodologies that you could do to certainly gain performance, gain metrics, and gain some exposure that were sometimes considered not best practices, but oftentimes at that time were acceptable and did support some of your marketing efforts. This was great for the owner of the optimized site, but not so much for the visitor of Google. Today we're certainly in a consumer-first, SEO-second environment. Some of these manipulations and changes of the algorithms and the way we are able to use different things for website, for exposure, again, weren't necessarily helping the consumer. Many Google users were landing on pages that they were not useful and weren't necessarily the best option based on the intent of that searcher. In a nutshell, Google does want to provide its users with the best possible results for search queries. As you're all well aware, spammy results would hurt your mission and the reputation of your services, your brand, and your future of your marketing as well. To prevent this from becoming a large spread problem, within the search results, Google began using many more frequent updates and algorithm changes to ultimately refine their ranking factors and prevent spammy duplicate content or sites from appearing as well. These steps are in place to prevent the abuse of unnatural linking and billing to manipulate a site's rankings, for sure.
And when you think about all of these different changes, now we'll start to talk about some of the specifics of these updates that have led us to where we are today in the overall, SEO atmosphere and internet marketing in general. One of the first major updates that Google had, brought out was Google's Panda update, which was a filter developed to prevent low-quality content and over-optimized content sites that contained a lot of spam and dupe or thin content from ranking well in the search engines. It stood outside of the algorithm and originally rolled out in February of 2011, and was updated almost monthly up until March of 2013, where Google announced that it was actually integrated directly into the algorithm. So this is very important to them. It was a very important push, so much so that it's finally been integrated into the algorithm, that they don't want spammy content, they don't want duplicate or thin content. They want to be providing their visitors, their users that are using their service for a search query, to get the best possible result that they can. And in order to do that, we need to be thinking about high quality content and other items that are going to bring people to these sites, make them engaged, and ultimately, satisfy their desired action and hopefully turn into a conversion for yourself at the same time. After Panda was the Penguin update. Google loves their black and white animals. Penguin was released in April of 2012, and as opposed to Panda, which was focused on the content, Penguin was more focused on sites that violate Google's Webmaster Tool guidelines, specifically through the manipulating of their search ranks by creating large amounts of unnatural links. This rolled out, and at the same time, a lot of people started to get messages in their Webmaster Tool giving them warnings that they found unnatural links. Penalties began to be rolled out, manual and algorithmic penalties to sites, and sites that were doing very, very well prior to this it fell off the face of the SERP simply because they had manipulated their entire link profile, and it was not something that Google found to be in line with their Webmaster Tool guidelines. And anyone who's ever gotten that unnatural link warning understands that the recovery from a Penguin penalty is long and very expensive. So you want to be on the good side of Google. It's their world. We just live in it. So we need to make sure that we're going and when we're providing, when we're building these links or when we're working on the campaign, that it's all in the mind of consumer first, as Chris had said, and also in line with Google's Webmaster Tool guidelines, so that we can make sure that we don't have anything to worry about down the line as far as penalties or potential problems. Next update, another animal, the hummingbird. Not a black and white animal, but still a major update, just like Penguin and Panda. But unlike the two previous updates, Hummingbird is actually a new algorithm itself, whereas Panda and Penguin were standing outside of the algorithm as filters, and Panda was eventually integrated into that. The Hummingbird algorithm is basically a brand new way that the algorithm is deciding how to rank things and filtering through content. Hummingbird itself is going to affect the way Google determines search results. So, and one of the major changes here is that Hummingbird is able to determine semantic relationships of terms in search queries, which allows it to be more focused on the user's intent instead of grabbing individual keywords from that search and trying to figure out exactly what they're looking for based on those key terms as it did previously. Now it's understanding the relationship between these words so that the entire search of the person can be taken into account instead of just a couple of the words, which is really great for a lot of, where people are doing voice searches on their phone and, more question-based searches, looking for things. This really helps that because now the entire search query, all of those words, the what, where, and how, is all being included in, Google's judgment of what is going to be the best possible listing to provide for this visitor. And Hummingbird is going to make that, much better for many users of Google search engine. Additional key updates didn't have any animal names, but were important overall. Page layout, which aimed at sites with too many ads above the fold, as well as the exact match domain update, which significantly devalued the exact match domains as a ranking factor. Still value there, but not nearly as much as it had previously. So definitely a key update to affect the landscape of SEO campaigns. Now, not only did the algorithms change significantly, but based on that, the search engine's results page has changed drastically over the last few years. You can remember where it used to be 10 consistent listings for everybody who searched that term across the board. And it's moved now into a much, much more personalized search experience for the user, which is one of the many reasons why rankings become very difficult to be used as a metric, because everybody's seeing something different. Other changes for the search engine plate includes updates for user experience through things like Google Instant, altered results based on user context that provide more relevant listings based on geographic area or their web history and other factors, including, in general, including different informational pieces for a more robust listing, like knowledge graph listings, and rich snippets if taken advantage of on many sites. And of course, what's most important is the blended search results, whereas based on your query, now not just websites, but products, images, news, videos are all being filtered into that search query based on the relevance of the search query for those particular items. So you're not just seeing those 10 listings anymore, you're seeing lots of different types of listings on the front page. And then most recently, just in the last month or so, was the title and meta description SERP-specific presentation by Pixel update. So where previously it was the character count that was presented from a title and meta description perspective, it's now changed to a pixelated related one, which is natural, and I think it's a good move for Google considering all the different types of browsers and sizes of machines that people are actually viewing different things on that Pixel's going to work well for. However, it is a little frustrating for us who want to make sure that we have complete control over what is presented in that search result. But best practice remains the same. You want to make sure that the most important terms and your calls to action are as close as possible to the front of the tags so that, whether it's pixel or character, you still get that information in there. Next is the encrypted search. Now, this is the most important of these updates from a metrics perspective, and one of the many reasons why this webinar had to be is needed to be put together and needed for us to be reviewed. Is love or hate all these changes that I previously discussed about, they have resulted in Google achieving their main goal. They provide a much better search result for their user, and that's what they want to do. However, one recent update, the encrypted search update, has caused some significant problems for business owners that are trying to determine the success of their SEO campaigns. And basically what this encrypted search update did was that it prevents the keyword search data from any Google user signed in from being tracked, which has caused skyrocketing and not provided visits in everyone's analytics accounts across the board. Now, some companies have lost as much as 80% of their organic keyword data before this. And this data was previously used to tie specific keyword ranks to online conversion and rank, which was effective and could be done and accurately. But now with as much as 80% of your keyword data now being missing and just getting your not provided, it's become close to impossible to accurately determine where that traffic's coming from and conversions from a particular keyword perspective. There are ways to make inferences and to make estimates through use of webmaster tools and just industry standards and kind of what the click-through rate industry standards are for certain rankings and what you happen to rank at. You can still make estimates, but again, they're going to just be estimates because you have to consider that rankings are going to be different for everybody that's searching. And also another important point to note here is that we also thought hey, if you have an active AdWords campaign, that's great. You'd still be able to get the keyword data from there. But apparently Google just recently confirmed that now they will not be passing the referral data to AdWords users, log files, web servers, or analytical packages either. So essentially AdWords has gone not provided as well. So we'll start to see that start to fall off soon, and that data will no longer be available for us either. So it's unfortunate, but like I said before, it's Google's world. We're just living in it. So we need to find ways to better ways and more accurate ways to assess campaigns so that we can pull actionable information from it and be able to move forward and adjust and improve. So many solutions. A lot of SEOs have claimed that there's several solutions to the problems with the not provided, but all of them are some sort of technical estimation, as I said, to give business owners an educated guess. And sure, an educated guess is good, and we can make some inferences off that stuff. But in the end, there's no substitute for accurate, real data. So we need to be looking at things like analytics and webmaster tools to be able to pull the data that we know is accurate, be able to look at it from an SEO perspective, and make inferences and be able to augment our campaign based on our findings. And the best way to do that is with accurate data.
So, Mike, oftentimes we hear a lot based on some of these changes that you've just recently discussed, and oftentimes when we're dealing with our clients and our markets, we hear a lot that are keywords dead? Are they dying? And the answer is no. Keywords are not dead. They still do play a vital role in our SEO campaigns. They certainly play a vital role in our conversations and discussions around how to better campaigns as well. But even prior to the increase not provided that Mike had just mentioned, we don't necessarily recommend the specific keyword ranks as a KPI or key performance indicator, primarily because reaching your goal in specific rankings are not the goal of a successful SEO campaign. Rankings certainly support it and tell a story, but the increased visitation, conversions from organic, and various other metrics will certainly tell the complete story. And I think that's part of the goal today, is that rankings only do indeed tell a very small percentage of the overall picture, or paint the overall picture. Restricting the view to rankings of specific terms can certainly sell your campaign considerably short, and again, not telling the complete story.
So keywords aren't dead, but we also need to think about metrics that we can look at and pull some actionable information of, and be able to determine how healthy is this campaign. Is it moving in the right direction? Do we need to make changes? There are several types of metrics that we're going to look at here, and this is the first set, and they're the traffic volume metrics. These are the most basic of them, and they're all found in analytics and just about any view. And the first one here is organic volume, the most basic of the KPI. And then we have share of organic search volume compared to other channels. And then this one's an interesting one. You can't really pull it from analytics. It's something that needs to be kind of calculated on its own. And that's the share of total traffic referred by the search engines and how that compares to that current search engine's market share. And that can help determine health from an interesting perspective, and see if we're on par, if the site is on par with what the average should be from traffic from a particular search engine, and can open up opportunities. And we'll discuss that here in a minute. So the first one here is organic traffic volume. Things you want to be looking at, is this month compared to last month up, or for seasonal effective websites, is organic traffic volume up compared to this month last year. Year over year is usually our best review. A lot of different seasonality factors with a lot of different businesses. So it's important to look at year over year stats regularly.
And now, also, Mike, great point, because some of the factors we need to start looking at are the algorithm changes, in addition to just what was only seasonality. So now there are certainly, this year is going to be many more changes compared to last year, compared to the previous year. So another factor that adds into the mix.
Exactly. So you want to be reviewing how that traffic is performing. You want to see what percentage of that traffic is new visits. Is that percentage increasing? You always want to be getting more. It's great to have repeat visitors, but we always want more new visitors as well. We want new people finding the site as well. And these metrics here are what Google calls acquisition metrics. They're outlined in just about any view in analytics, and you can examine these metrics by source, give you a broad look at overall organic traffic and how it's trending. And you can look at it from demographics and other ways, and just get an idea of where traffic's coming from. The only view that is difficult is the keyword view, because if not provided, you're getting a very inaccurate piece of data there. Next is share of total site traffic. Organic traffic share of the site's total volume as compared to referral and direct is also a good metric to be tracking. Is that going up regularly? Are we seeing a larger increase to the percentage of organic traffic compared to the others? Ultimately, we want to see that the contributions to the whole from organic traffic as a percentage is going up. But it's also important to note here that if there were large increases in paid campaigns, or you began a new referral program, or some other channel came into the mix, that needs to be considered, because that's going to skew percentage metrics. So you need to look at it from an entire marketing perspective.
And certainly make sure that the way you are marketing, how that data is being tracked via Google Analytics. So as Mike had just mentioned, if there is a large push for some paid distribution or some custom content in a referral type platform, that will certainly be monitored and tracked in a very different way than coming through either direct or organic, et cetera. So.
Next is the search engine volume versus market share, which I talked about here briefly a minute ago, and that's the traffic referred from a specific search engine as it compares to that specific search engine's overall market share. And this information can be used to find gaps in the campaign and opportunities on specific search engines. You can get these estimates from comscore.com. They compare those percentages to your actual search engine traffic split, and you can see how they compare. ComScore updates this data every month, so you can see that in February of 2014, Google sites accounted for 67.5 of all searches online. Now, here's our example data. Traffic volume metrics, organic traffic percentage by search engine. Now you can see with this particular one here, for this site example, that while ComScore for February says 67% for Google, 18 Bing, 10 Yahoo, we see in our site where we're dealing with about 85% traffic from Google, 7% from Bing, 6% from Yahoo. Now, what that leads me to believe, well, first of all, we're very dependent on Google, which isn't terrible, but because it is the daddy out there, but we also want to consider the Bing and Yahoos. That's not no traffic. That's still, if you consider what we're looking at here, we're still looking at over 115,000 visits in that month just from Bing and Yahoo. So that's something that can't be ignored. The percentages are considerably lower, which leads me to believe that while Google may be performing very well, there's opportunities on Bing and Yahoo that we're not taking advantage of. That we need to be investigated and see where we can augment the campaigns to help boost our visibility in those sections, in those search engines, so that we can take advantage of the full, the full breadth of availability out there for our services. Next is traffic volume metrics. This is local volume. This is something very specific for the local business. Now, it's important that you want to track your volume for specific areas and specific locations. If you are in Austin, Texas, doing a particular service, you don't care how much traffic your site got from California because it's not useful traffic for you. It's not going to convert for you. You're not driving out there to do the job. So it's important that you're looking at that traffic from a local perspective and making sure that that's where the bulk of that traffic is coming in, and that's a healthy move, and that's going up regularly. Google Analytics will break this down by location, all the way down to the city level, so you can see where it's coming from. And different things like Google Plus, the Maps listings, Yext setups, things like that can really help your overall local rankings, not just from Google perspective, Google listings, but just Google Maps as well, which would allow for more visits and more referrals to come in from Google, coming in from that map pack. And Yext helps augment the Google Plus profile to help you rank quite well in that factor. So definitely something that needs to be focused on is your local volume when you're thinking about your business and the radius that it serves. So we talked about traffic volume metrics. Now we want to talk about traffic quality metrics. Google Analytics provides several of these metrics to help determine the quality of the visitor. You get pages per visit, bounce rate, average visitor duration, social shares, all of them very useful in understanding the engagement and how useful the visitor is finding this information that we're providing them. So first is the time on site and pages per visit. These are two great metrics for determining visitor quality. Of course, what you want to see with these numbers is an increase, of course, but that does not tell the entire story. So these metrics help measure several items related to the campaign, and we want to be able to look at those and understand those. So two important points that these metrics help measure is content consumption. For example, a spike in these metrics after a content overhaul of a specific URL or the entire site means you've most likely accomplished your goal of making the content more engaging and people are consuming more of it. You can take this tracking one step further by setting up specific tracking events on the pages, like the playing of a video, to test engagement of specific site elements on those pages as well. Another way that that these metrics help point to strategy is organic theming. increases to these metrics from your organic traffic. If you separate your organic traffic out from direct referral and your other sources, and you see that while the others remain consistent, but the time on site and pages per visit from the organic traffic is actually up, then what you're seeing there is that you have a higher quality visitor coming from your organic traffic than you had previously. While most of the other traffic, from direct or referral has been stagnant, organics time on site and pages per visit have increased, largely. That would point to a higher quality visitor and a more focused visitor, which is probably caused by better quality ranks and more relevant ranks. And that's what you want to see in a campaign as you're moving it along is the engagement of these visitors increasing regularly, so that we know that we're focused on the right keywords, we know that we're focused on the right the right verticals, we know that we have the right content, and the people are demographic, our focused demographic is is happy with it and is engaging with it and likes it. Bounce rate, another traffic quality metric. The URL bounce rate is the percentage. A lot of people are confused by this metric, but really what it basically is the percentage of visitors that landed on a particular URL as their initial entrance point for a site, but didn't click on any other link that would lead them through to another page of the site. They simply left from there. So they landed on one page and then they closed it out, or they just put something else in the browser, or went back to home or Google or whatever. They decided for whatever reason they didn't need anything else on this website. That's what your bounce is.
And I think that can be important, Mike, for two different scenarios. One of being coming directly from an organic search, finding that URL, making the click, and then ultimately not having the right information. And then also that's an indicator of if other marketing is occurring to lead to that page directly as well, and you still see low time on site or a high bounce rate, et cetera, you can certainly make some informed decisions right out of the gate that says this content is not exactly what we are hoping it would do for the intent or for that consumer.
Exactly. Social signals, another great traffic quality metric. Social media is playing a huge part in SEO to the point where, I don't even like to call it an SEO campaign or a social media campaign. I like to call it a full internet organic marketing campaign, because so many of these different facets, reputation management and social media need to be kind of included and rolled into your SEO campaign to have as well as PR and media pitches and all these other different types of online engagement that can be done to get yourself out there, to get more traffic to your sites and to build relationships for link building. So social is definitely key, and we want to factor that and consider that a factor when looking at our health of our organic campaign. So you want to make sure that those things are increasing on a regular basis. Your likes, your shares, your retweets, your Google Pluses. Those are going to help you from an organic perspective. There is a certain part of the algorithm that is looking at how how people are engaging from a social perspective on this site, and the more engagement you can get from there can definitely help with your overall rankings. Conversion metrics. So these are some of the most important. We talked about traffic volume metrics. We talked about traffic quality metrics. But now we're talking about conversion metrics. And these are really, this is specifically measuring your bottom line. In Google Analytics, these are specified by setting up goals. And, goals will always vary depending on the type of site, but determining your site goals and getting them set up should definitely be discussed. Goals can be added at any point during the life of your marketing campaign, knowing that they change periodically and vary depending on certain factors. But you definitely need to be thinking about goals and what the goal of the site is, and getting that set up so that it can be tracked and can be quantified.
And then to your point, Mike, once we now have quantifiable information and analytics, you can certainly open up new gates of opportunities to continue to, again, better the time on site to better convert, reduce the bounce rates to better convert, and et cetera. So a lot of these factors are all tied together, ultimately with the end goal of better conversion.
Yep. So the first of these is conversion rate, percentage of visitors that actually converted or completed a specified goal. It can be tracked on the URL, channel, and even keyword level. However, because of the not provided issues, that greatly distorts, the keyword level metric. But you can see it by URL, you can see it by channel, you can understand, what channels are converting better, etc. And that's what we want to be looking at here in these conversion metrics is, are they going up? Are we increasing our conversions? And that leads back to some of the other ones. And that's how you start to build out what needs to be done with this campaign based on what you're seeing. Fine, our conversion rate slightly down. We're not sure what's wrong with the landing page, but then we go and we look at, the time on the page or the bounce rate. We see that that's through the roof. We realize that the messaging isn't what we need it to be for the visitor that we're looking for. So it's definitely, all of these metrics are very important to be looked at together so that it can tell an entire story about what is going on with the campaign, and so that we know, and ultimately what we need to do, what action items we can pull from there to get it back to where it needs to be, or enhance it even further than it's already been. Goal completions from organic traffic specifically, that's a key metric definitely from organic for organic SEO campaign. The total goal completions from organic traffic specifically, are those numbers increasing, and how many goals are coming from from organic traffic? Is that more than your direct? Is it more than your referral traffic? Is it increasing on a percentage factor year over year or month over month? These are the things that need to be looked at and understood because it's your bottom line. While you might see that traffic might be down a bit month over month, but we may be seeing a large increase in goal conversion. So our conversion rate's higher, but our traffic is a little bit down. Time on site is up. So based on looking at those different metrics, you can say, okay, well, we're not getting as much traffic, but we're getting better traffic. A higher quality visitor. We're coming up for more relevant searches, and more people are converting. So that's why you want to look at the whole story. Just traffic being down might not tell the whole story. You might have you might be running something very successful there and not know it, because you didn't check the conversion.
Yeah, and also as a follow-up, it's checking the metrics from referrals, from direct. Is there a concern with the brand as a whole that's influencing the direct traffic? Is there a concern with a program that has since stopped, or an affiliate program, or a referral program that is no longer active? So when we start looking at the metrics broken apart that way, it certainly tells a more consolidated story and gives us the ability to diagnose the areas that need more attention at that time.
Next is e-commerce tracking. If purchases are made directly on your site, if you're an e-commerce site, you want to have e-commerce tracking set up. You can have this done in analytics very easily. I would imagine if you if you're not using analytics, you may have some third-party software that you're using that's tracking it. But no matter what, you want something in there tracking your transactions, tracking your organic revenue, and just your overall site revenue. And what you want to look at here is, organic channels producing revenue. Are they producing revenue? And is that revenue increasing compared to previous periods? How is, and you want to look at that also from, average order size perspective and from total revenue and, per visit value. All of these stats can be tracked within the conversion part of Google Analytics, and you can get a good idea of not only how well you're converting, but, the behavior of the visitors that are converting, the sources that they're coming from, the pages that they're landing on, so that we can better augment those to increase conversion overall. But definitely important to track. When you're talking about metrics, we need to be looking at these. Are they growing? Are they dropping? If, no matter what, that's telling information that needs to be investigated with the rest of this stuff to be able to figure out, okay, based on this, this is what we do moving forward. Next is ROI. When you start getting into conversions and you start tracking those kinds of numbers and you have real organic revenue numbers, you start getting into the ROI conversation. You start figuring out, what is your return on investment, and your profit. So for e-commerce sites, simply, take the total monthly revenue from the organic and organic traffic and subtract that from your monthly costs associated with marketing, and you can get a good idea of what your ROI is from your organic campaign. for lead generation sites that you're not purchasing anything directly, what you want to do there is put a fixed dollar amount on each lead. What is each lead worth to you? And then, on average. And then what we'll take is, you get an idea of how many leads were produced organically over that month, or from other channels associated with your organic campaign. Subtract that from your cost, and there's your estimated ROI for your month. These are things that you want to track. It's important to know that campaigns are producing a return on investment. That is the ultimate goal. Cost per acquisition. This is another great one that can give you an idea of, how efficient the campaign is running. If that cost per acquisition is, moving up or moving down. Calculate the cost per acquisition. You simply divide the cost of your in-house marketing by the number of leads for the month, and that'll tell you, okay, well, based on that, this is how much it costs to get each lead for the month, and you have an understanding. And that's what you want to look at. You want to see how that trends over 6 months and where that's moving, because ultimately you want that to be decreasing. It's not going to decrease, incredibly, but a nice steady stream of decrease across there is what you want, so that you can be confident that your campaign is running more and more efficiently. Now, the last 3 sets of metrics where we talked about traffic volume, traffic quality, and traffic conversions, those are all items located in your analytics platform, whether it's Google or some other third-party platform. Now, another item that should be looked at as we step outside of Google Analytics itself and now move into Google Webmaster Tools, which I recommend for every website to have, is the number of pages indexed, and understanding how Google is crawling the pages and if Google is including them in the index. This is something you'll want to monitor over the course of the campaign, because as you correct issues related to the architecture, metadata, duplicate issues, all those other items, the number of pages being indexed should steadily be on the rise, showing that Google is including more and more pages of you into the index, and that Google likes the site more and more. And this can be tracked within Webmaster Tools, and it's something that you'll want to review, monthly to see, hey, how is indexation trending, and is it moving in the right direction, or do we have a problem? And then one of our last metrics here is a complete third-party metric, which is domain and page authority. Domain authority and page authority are metrics that stem from Moz, and they're 2 metrics that you should always be tracking. They basically measure the site's strength within the SERPs, particularly the profile of the site, the link profile. And building links help influence these metrics. And if your building your link plan is working effectively, then these numbers should grow over time. A lot of people talk about page rank. They want to know, okay, well, why isn't my page rank going up? Really, page rank is kind of a dead factor. It's not really as relevant anymore as domain authority and page authority. I believe, page rank is updated once a year now, and really doesn't have much of a factor in the overall algorithm as far as how it's judging ranks. But domain and page authority, while not directly related to Google, does give a very nice breakdown of how you compare from a link profile perspective to your competitors and other people on certain terms for first page. So you can get an idea of what the competition is like from a strength perspective compared to yourself, and if certain terms are viable to go after or may not be, because competition is simply not real, it's unrealistic to go after. So it's definitely important to be tracking these, and you can find out a lot of information from that from a competitive standpoint as well. You can determine a lot of information from this stuff, and it can help guide your campaign. But ultimately, you want to be, from a metrics standpoint, you want to be looking at it, month over month, every quarter, and see that it's growing, steadily, and that's going to point to, a successful internet SEO marketing campaign that is making your site stronger naturally.
So what are keywords good for? Oftentimes, again, as we start changing the way we discuss marketing and we start understanding more of the algorithms and really making decisions based on those, what are keywords indeed good for? We already know they make for bad KPIs or the lack of measurement, the lack of accuracy, and the ability that Google is pulling away from us are all factors that are giving us signs and using those things to kind of pull away from that conversation. We know it does not tell the entire story. Going deeper in analytics, going deeper in webmaster tools, and really understanding the individual silos and what each of those factors do to tell and make up the larger story certainly need to be evaluated. Should keywords be tracked? Still, of course. But how we're tracking them, again, through this presentation we discussed, it is certainly changing and has changed since the evolution of the frequency of algorithms. They still have their uses. Again, they're an important part of our overall strategy. The keyword ranking information is still going to help us inform content for each specific URL and landing page. So a very large shifts that we're seeing in the data and the traffic, we still want to rely on keywords to help us understand the depth and the breadth of those pages. The data from Webmaster Tools is certainly a tool that can and should be used regularly. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But it does give us the insights we need on how the keywords are performing. Things like impressions, things like clicks, things like the actual pages that it's taking us to and landing on. These are all elements that are still valuable information and how we're going to use them to tell the complete picture or story.
Exactly, and the particularly the Webmaster Tool data, because it's one of the only places to get that keyword data. Is, you can export that data, and run those keywords through a rank tracking program, which will give you the URL that is ranking for that keyword, which is kind of determining it from a backwards end, but you can get an idea of what traffic and keywords are coming in from particular URLs, which can help inform, whether URLs are themed properly or need to be adjusted. So there's definitely usefulness there with the keyword data still being provided in Webmaster Tools. However, how long that lasts with Google, who knows? They pull something from us every other week. So, but while it's there, it's definitely useful.
The future of SEO is certainly a conversation we have regularly. We're always looking to see what's next, what's coming down the pipeline. And I think, Mike, you had said it best earlier in this presentation. It's not about SEO as a term anymore, but more or less about the entire conversation, the entire internet marketing, the entire digital marketing platform. As we said, the implementation of the Hummingbird secure search by Google means that we're not only need to rethink the metrics, but we need to track and be able to make decisions based on the data and based on the story that's being told through the analytics. A successful 2014 SEO or digital marketing campaign, it's a complete organic internet marketing plan. And again, we've talked a lot about that, talked a lot about how we can dissect that and looking at different areas. But it really is about a complete digital marketing plan. Rich snippets, Google Plus, as a future thinking conversation at this point, very important to the general landscape and very important additions to any existing campaign. Microdata and rich snippets is going to be key to helping your site stand out on the search engine results. These are it's snippets of code that will be placed on very specific pages and product detail information that will certainly serve up good information to Google. As we get more into the algorithm conversation and we start talking about the ways that we want to serve up the information, we certainly want to support Google in what they're trying to accomplish. Rich snippets is a great way to do that. It's a way to inform and educate Google on the most valuable pieces of content on your particular sites. As well as Google Plus. The profiles within the search engines are becoming incredibly important, not only from a local standpoint, but from a, again, kind of using that conversation really from the social signal side of the conversation also. Google Plus is sending information to and from your business, your websites, your informational sites. So it's something that is absolutely an important element as we look forward to ensuring that those two elements are at least discussed as you continue to advance your site. Mobile, without a doubt, is becoming one of the most talked about conversations, and it's not going away anytime soon. In fact, one of the key takeaways from this presentation will be to grab your analytics and take a peek at your mobile traffic. Certainly it's growing, it's increasing, depending on your demographics, depending on the types of information you're sharing via your site. The mobile growth is certainly incredible. Online traffic from mobile is increasing exponentially, and again, it varies based on vertical, and varies based on topic or theme, but one of the consistent trends we're seeing across the board is certainly the growth in mobile visits, regardless of the topic or theme. And another very important takeaway based on that is the idea of a responsive website. Responsiveness or a responsive website is certainly, it will allow your website to be viewed in a much more mobile-friendly manner. It doesn't mean a complete mobile site, but it certainly means your website, the visual, your navigation, certain key areas of a consumer-centric site will certainly be viewed and be able to be shared and clicked and crawled much more succinctly for the consumer. So ultimately, a responsive design of your site is a very important element to advancing your business and really catering to the demographics and how they want to view your information.
And this is just a metric summary of what we talked about here. Our traffic volume KPIs, search volume, share of total traffic volume, share of specific search engines compared to their market share, local traffic, where it's coming from, engagement KPIs or traffic quality, time on site, pages per visit, bounce rate, social shares, all important. And then conversion KPIs, conversion rate, goals completed, revenue and transactions, your ROI, your CPA, and of course, how many leads are you generating organically. All very important metrics when looking at your online organic marketing campaign. So here are them in a nutshell, but if you go back through the presentation here, you can see on each slide how they're broken down. And so 2014, it brings a lot of change to the online space, but it's something that we're used to. 2013 brought a lot of change as well, as 2012 did. And I'm sure that 2015 will be no different. So it's important for us to be regularly looking at these things and to be ready and agile so that we can make adjustments and be able to look at things and find the metrics that are going to be useful for us, no matter what Google throws at us. So we need to be able to adapt, and as long as you can adapt and you pay key attention to some of the important organic metrics, and not just look at them, but actually put actions behind them, you can be looking at a very successful campaign here in 2014.
That's great. During the presentation, some of the questions that have been coming in, we'll certainly try to answer a few now. Thank you again for this presentation, Mike. I appreciate your time. And again, thank you all for attending. I did want to spend a little bit of time here just closing out on a handful of questions. But again, keep sending them in. Thank you very much. And we will also, when we publish the report, this presentation, as well as going online with it, will certainly help answer the additional questions that do come in. And of course, you can also contact WebiMax at any point if you do have further questions based on this presentation. But let me just grab a couple here and we'll run through these, and then again we'll close out with the Q&A. One of the first questions that came in was, what are some examples of changes you have made to websites to help improve metrics like bounce rate or time on site?
Well, that's interesting. That really comes down from what that kind of rolls into is a conversion factor. Is when you're dealing with these landing pages, you're not having success with people staying with time on site, or you're not having success with people clicking through to the next action. Ultimately, it's going to have a lot to do with either copy or design from a user-friendly experience. So A lot of different changes that that can be made that can be very effective is different places of placement for call to actions, removement of clutter. Sometimes, sometimes you can get on a page and there's so much going on that it pulls away from the actual goal of what the page is trying to do or what the landing page is trying to do, which is going to affect that conversion. Also, the quality of the content on the page. Are we really providing what we need to provide for these people? Is this really what they're looking for, or is this just fluff to get content on the page? Though all of those things need to be reviewed and augmented and tested, and to ultimately see what's going to affect the overall, time on site, and to keep people from bouncing off. Maybe it's a different call to action that this demographic seems to respond much better to. Sometimes it's colors, sometimes it's simple placement of items on the page, but it's first, the most important part is really to diagnose where that particular problem is coming from, and then outline a couple of different items that we can test to see how that's going to affect overall metrics on that page.
Great point, Mike. And again, I think the operative word there is test, and it's about potentially using an A/B split testing format and really challenging the existing control to better the time on site, to better the bounce rate. So again, I think an A/B test environment or platform will certainly help you make some of those informed decisions as opposed to simply just making the changes just to make the changes. So great example.
Exactly. Different visitors for different industries have different demographics, and they react differently to different things. So, testing is always going to be key to understanding how how your visitors, how they react to certain things and how they want to consume their content.
Great question came in here, Mike. How do I know if my site has been penalized by Google updates like Penguin or one of the other updates?
That is a great question, and it's something that you always should be looking at and always being aware of. And the easiest way is the manual penalty. That's the penalties that are placed on you from the Google Penguin update that includes those unnatural linking warnings. Now, those are easy to diagnose because they gave you a message in WebMaster Tools, and they have a whole tab there that says manual penalty, manual action, where it explains what it is and gives you the opportunity to resubmit from there. So manual penalties, while usually the most devastating to your overall rankings, are the easiest to find and usually the easiest to remove because we have that guidance from Google. Where it starts to get tricky is algorithmic penalties that can be placed in by Panda or by Penguin. And what those are is that you'll see these dips and these drops in traffic and
they'll look unnatural.
They'll look unnatural.
Or spikes.
Yeah, they're going to look very unnatural, but you're not going to have any semblance within WebMaster Tools to correlate them. You're not going to get messages from Google explaining what the problem is. So you need to dig a little bit deeper, and that's where you have to kind of investigate. What you need to do is you need to kind of compare your analytics to major changes and major algorithm updates. Ultimately, when someone's been hit by one of these penalties, it's been on an update day or around that time. So if you're able to correlate traffic drops, large drops in traffic or a large drop in overall ranking keywords to say, Panda point whatever, and you can be pretty confident that you had been hit with a particular Panda penalty because of it. So that's one of the key things is checking out your analytical movement and how things are trending and how that compares to the updates over the course of the last 6 months or over the updates over the course of the last year. And if your spikes, your ebbs and flows and your spikes, and they start to correlate a lot with these updates, you can have a pretty good idea that there's been some sort of algorithmic penalty. And something like Panda, you know what Panda's going after. It's going after thin, duplicate content. You know if your content is good or if it's not. You know if you took your content from someplace else or you did not. So you can have a pretty good understanding of why they may be penalizing you if you're honest with what's going on with your site. The linking's a little bit more difficult. because that's your profile and that's not something that you're looking at regularly, where you understand what's on the content that's on your site. You're not necessarily going to understand what's in your link profile.
And sometimes out of your control.
And exactly, to some degree, it's out of your control. And, anyone can link to anyone on the internet. It's the Wild West. So, you need to consider, when you're doing that and you haven't been given a straight manual penalty, you need to be doing something similar that you're doing for the Panda penalty, but from the perspective of your link profile as well. You want to be pulling data on your link profile over that trending course. You want to be comparing that to analytics as well as the updates to Google, and to see if any of those start to mesh. And when they do, you can have a pretty good idea that you had been hit with some sort of penalty. And then you want to move into a recovery stage.
Great. We'll take one more question here. I think it's an important one because it does have to deal with the frequency. The question is, how frequently should you analyze these metrics to track them effectively? I can certainly start by saying that throughout this presentation, we hit on many different factors that will give you more information and things to truly look at. So I would encourage to begin looking at these more regularly in the very beginning. Get very comfortable with the data and allow that data to tell you your story once you're comfortable with that. Then I think Mike and I, we always recommend looking at Google Analytics almost regularly. So it doesn't need to be certainly involved on a daily basis, but you should know what's happening behavior-wise from a traffic perspective on a regular basis. Webmaster Tools is certainly something that we would most recommend checking at least once every 2 weeks, simply because there are changes that occur within Webmaster Tools that are not as regular or not as real-time from an updated perspective. But if you do truly understand what's happening with your traffic and your online presence and exposure, you're also diagnosing it within your Webmaster Tools to better understand the bigger picture and some bigger themed areas. Certainly, it should become a regular routine.
Absolutely. And I think that you bring up some really great points there. You want to get comfortable with the metrics initially and be looking at it regularly. The changes don't happen overnight, though. So, and it's hard to distill patterns and understand trending in short periods of time. So, ultimately, we're usually looking at metrics, on a month-over-month basis. But if there's time, of course, it'd be nice to look at it, on a more regular kind of review. But you don't want to get too caught up in the day-to-day metrics. You need to pull yourself out at some point and look at the long view. How are things trending? One day might be up and the next 2 might be down, but then it might be great for the next week. So it's too hard to discern patterns in short periods of time. It's better to look at it over a trending period.
Well, again, thank you. There are more questions that came in, but we are out of time. What we'll do is we'll be able to publish them directly with our presentation. And as always, you can always contact WebiMax for any future questions or any concerns that you may have regarding your online marketing. So thank you once again.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time. And again, we look forward to connecting in the short term.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, guys. And we hope you were able to pull away something useful here. And if you have any additional questions, be sure to follow up, and we'll definitely get back to you. Thank you.